Okay, let's continue with the releases of 3 weeks ago, and the third release was Butch. Butch at 2 stars is a 6-3 with the ability of Courage plus 2 power. Now, what's your first initial thoughts on it, Slithy?
Butch is pretty good, actually. As I said before, 8 power is always a very nice thing. 3 damage for a 2 star is pretty nice, and, with the feat, he's a pretty good lead if you need to have a good lead. At the same time, though, Butch's only really big flaw, beside a small flaw of SOA, his really big flaw is his competition with the other 2 stars. Because Vortex is some of the best 2 stars out there, and Butch is good, but he's not one of the best out there.
Okay. And what's your initial thoughts on it, Prime?
Well, not much. Yeah, he's really indeed weak against the other ones, so I wouldn't pick him.
Okay.
No.
Well, I have to say, I definitely agree with Slify. When I saw this card, I went, will it compare with the other 2 stars? And then I came to the conclusion, probably not. Sea-Wing, Siblia, and Neoli are just very good, I suppose.
Yeah. And Butcher's the feds. He would be actually, maybe I'm completely wrong, I just don't know what I'm talking about, but I think he'd be a lot better if he was in a different clan. Because with his ability and his stats, if he was a Bangers, he'd be a 10-3 for a 2 star. If he was a Montana, he'd be an 8-3 with minus 12 off attack,
I mean, yeah.
Any other clan, he'd be amazing, don't get me wrong.
But just Vortex, it's just, I suppose.
Right.
I mean, don't get me, the problem is, I wouldn't want to lead with this card, to be fair. It's a 2 star. It's like, well, I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable with leading with something that can only do a little bit of damage on your opponent, I suppose.
Right. Actually, I don't like leading with courage things that are power based, that aren't don't have SOB. I don't mind leading with Sting, but I don't like leading with this card because if your opponent has an SOA, they know they can play it because they know when you're going to play this card.
No, what about something like Burger though? Because I like leading off of Burger. Just
I don't like using Burger, to be perfectly honest, because of SOA. But I would lead with a card that needs to have it, but I don't like using cards like that.
Okay, so yeah, I suppose he would be much better in a different clan actually, because technically he's already nearly better than Catcher, if I'm being honest.
Right,
if you think about it,
he's a good card. Don't get me wrong. When he just has too much competition in his own clan.
Yeah. Okay, so would you say it's a good investment, this card, then, Prime, or?
Well, again, no.
It's unfortunate. I don't think we have we might have one card in this whole of these 8 releases that might be desirable, I suppose, but unfortunately, I don't know. Yeah. But Butch, unfortunately, isn't really...
Butch isn't much for investing. No.
Okay. No. Alright, well, I think we can just go straight to the rating. This is probably going to be one of the shortest reviews of a card we've had in a while. So...
You can ask what you think his default price will be.
Oh yeah, what do you think his... how low do you think he'll go then, in that case?
Oh, well, very low. But he stays an uncommon, so he will have,
a little bit of value, I suppose.
I see he's at 580 now. And then... Probably because he's an uncommon and he's playable in some way.
Okay.
He will keep at levels around 500, maybe a little bit less.
Oh, 500. I'm thinking maybe he might go down to about 300, maybe. I don't know, but he is uncommon though, which is unfortunate for him. Do you think
on those Fridays he might do that? So if you can pick him up, then every card, of course, has its use in making money. But this card obviously doesn't have that swing to it, like Stapleness, to be gaining much when he would have, for instance, leave New Blood or something. I don't think so.
Okay. Do you know how much Neoli, or whatever his name is, the DR?
Yeah.
The Vortex.
How much she's standing at?
Yeah, how much is she standing at? I'm trying to check.
Also at 500.
Is she really? Okay.
Yeah, but she also has her weaknesses, huh?
I've just checked now. She's at 400 actually.
4 now.
400, yeah. Oh, that's
And
interesting.
then he could go deeper.
Yeah.
Then Butch could go deeper. I mean, Nellaway is a better 2-star, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
I mean, it's still early days. I mean, he'll probably drop to, I think, maybe 300, perhaps. I don't know, something like that. Anyway. Okay. Well, finally, we'll end with the rating, I suppose. So, Slify, out of 10, what would you give Butch?
7 out of 10, I think, is probably the perfect rating for him. As I said, he doesn't really overly help because of the amount of 2-stars they already have. At the same time, he's nowhere near as a bad card. So, he's an average card. I give him an average rating.
Okay. And what would you give him out of 10, Prime?
Oh, well, I would say like 6.5.
Okay. Well, my final thoughts on him, I think, unfortunately, Slify basically nailed the... I don't know what it is now.
Hit the nail on the coffin.
Yeah, that's it. Hit the nail on the coffin. I forgot the phrase.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Basically, unfortunately, Butch is just overshadowed by the competition, unfortunately. He would be such a nice card, but it's just... Vortex
Wrong
didn't...
plan.
Yeah,
Wrong plan.
yeah, Vortex just didn't really need him, unfortunately. He might be, if our investments are correct, he might drop down to 300, in which case he could be a good new card for newer players, I suppose, if they're wanting to start with Vortex, which I would strongly not recommend, as they are... They're a bit of an expert clan. I mean, I can't even master them myself, really, but there you go. So, unfortunately, I'll probably give this card a 6.5 out of 10, as Prime, well, already gave, I suppose. Alright, we'll finally end the reviews, well, the new cards from like 3 weeks ago with Eduardo from the Django. And Eduardo at 5 stars is a 7/6 with the ability of +2 life. Now, firstly, Slify, what is your initial thoughts on this Django card?
Clearly a 10 out of 10. He eats chickens. He's a ferret. He's really log. Yeah. He's great. Every way. No flaws. No flaws. Okay, serious time. Yeah, he would be really good if he wasn't Django and they didn't have like 8 5-stars already. He has no attack or power manipulation to help him in any way. He's 5 stars. He can raise the gap, but the gap doesn't really do a KO in any way. So there's really no extreme reason to use him, in my opinion, unless you can't really afford the others and need a 5-star. Sorry.
Okay, fair dues. And what was your initial thoughts on him, Prime?
Well, I thought immediately, like, you have this other 5-star Jungo that they recently brought out. It's Nahima.
Yeah.
I think she's better. And that's all, folks. Really, I think she's really honestly better.
Yeah.
She has the gap of 10.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got absolutely killed by a Nahima recently on my vids, actually, against Beeble. He used it to, very well, and I just 8 damage with the 2+ life, I suppose, it's quite hard to come back from that, I suppose, from getting hit from it. But unfortunately, when I first saw this card, I went, "Ooh, it's a rare," and then I actually looked at the stats and went, "Ah." I honestly, I don't think there was any reason in bringing this card, really, I suppose. The 7 power...
Interesting, sorry to ruin your review here, but an interesting PM I got about this card was they were yelling at me for not liking the card because it had the potential stats of Kolos without SOV.
It's just...
So I guess I'm wrong in everything I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
It has funny art, though.
Yeah, the art is nice, I suppose.
Yeah, it is great art, don't get me wrong.
Unfortunately, I just didn't see a single reason to actually release this card, unfortunately. He's not newbie friendly because he's a rare, which is, that's never a good thing. I mean, usually rares, if I'm correct, Prime, rares stay at least above like 1k or something.
No, mostly they do.
Okay. Invest or not, Prime, or?
No, I'm looking at the market right now, and surprisingly, there are only 26 offers. So, I don't know. I think the people are maybe misjudging him and not selling him, but I would have expected that it would be overflowing with Eduardos, but maybe people think it's a nice card. I don't know.
No, well,
Maybe this review will help that.
Yeah. Do you think when he comes out of, well, I mean, how low do you think he'll go then in that case? In terms of clips? Very low. Okay.
Yeah, he will crash in, 1 week? There will be a new release.
Yeah,
Then he will get his first beating. Oh no, his second. Sorry, his second beating.
Mm-hmm.
Since his first got him to 3,800. Then the second beating will, probably result around 2, if he's lucky. And then it'll linger on some time. So he may have ups and downs, but no, I would watch out for this card.
Okay. I suppose we'll end with the ratings then. So out of 10, Slify, what would you give this card?
Online I gave it a 6.5, and it's probably a valid thing. I think I'm gonna drop to a 6, and that's no fault to Eduardo, but as we've all mentioned, there's so much more competition. There's Askai, there's Ung, there's Adler, there's like so many really good Jungo 5 stars already that I can't really even like think of a reason to use it, even if I couldn't afford like 3 of the 5 I already stated. So probably down to a 6 at a time. He's not a bad card. He's very playable. If I was forced to play someone and I had to use this card, I wouldn't complain that much. But he's really not that great.
Okay. And out of 10, what would you give him, Prime?
Oh, well, I would say max 6.
Okay.
And that's because of all the reasons Slify just gave. And also because the most recent 5-star is like first 8 damage for Jungo. Very good card, Nahima. A little bit shaky with her power, but in every aspect, I think still a better card than Eduardo.
Okay. To sum up all our kind of points, I suppose, I think, unfortunately, this card is just overshadowed again, unfortunately, like Butch was. I mean, he's, as Slify said, he isn't a terrible card. I mean, you would probably, if you were given this card to play against some other guy, as Slify said, you wouldn't complain too much, because he isn't really that bad, but at the same time, unfortunately, there's just a lot better things for the Jungo. Unfortunately, their 5 stars are just so good, in fact, that I don't think they would ever really replace Askai or Ong in the future. So I would probably give it a 6 out of 10, as Slify and Prime kind of gave it, I suppose.